Good morning, good morning, good morning, Tacoma. I had to think about that. I'm like, what city am I in? I've been traveling for the last 5 weeks, but it's awesome and good to be here. I want to say thank you to Elvin for that introduction. I want to say thank you to Tanya, to all of the work that you're doing in this community. Thank you for having me, for inviting me. We met over a year ago at the Associated Children Museums Conference, and when I came off the stage, she said, I'm bringing you to the Pacific Northwest. I said, I'm going to be waiting. I like water and I like fish, and y'all got a lot of that here. So I'm ready. To Mr. Dan Meyer, thank you for your leadership and supporting all these organizations are doing in your community, because that's what it takes. It takes all of us together to make a difference. I want to say hello to my homegirl, Chantel, who's new to the area. She walked in the door, I'm like, I know her. How'd that happen? So it's good to be here. Now, my name is Calvin Mackie. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm from Backertown, Gerttown, Zion City. I'm from the Lower 9 where we don't mind dying. I'm from that Wild Magnolia, I thought I told you. I'm from that CP3, you know me. So don't start acting like a pair of brand new shoes. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, if I was from Pierce County, I would say maybe that I was from the South End, or from the East Side, a Hilltop, or Lakewood. Yeah, it is. You got it? The only thing I'm trying to say, Lakewood, is that I started from the bottom, and now I'm here. And just like many of our children that don't have hope, that don't know that they can leave Tacoma and go anywhere around the world, we're going to do the work that's necessary to let our children know that we're training them not just to stay in the Pacific Northwest, but to go in and compete anywhere they want in the world. And I also want to say, whenever I come into somebody's community, I want you all to know I come humbled and I come with the utmost respect, because I know the solutions in communities are in the communities where people are. And after I talk to you about the work that we're doing, you'll see what I mean. You know, a lot of times we think we got to get solutions from other places and things like that. And when there's a model that people can adopt, we should do that. But it's the people in the community that's going to have to do the work to make sure that our communities are resilient and ready for the 21st century. Now, before I get started, maybe I've shocked some of you all already, because when Elvin made that introduction, sometimes people say that's Dr. Mackie, and they expected a different type of introduction. As Dr. Mackie, they expect me to stand at the podium and go, hi, my name is Dr. Calvin Mackie. And it's good to be here. Now, it's not that type of presentation. I'm sorry. And also, a couple of caveats. I have my beautiful wife, Tracy, here with me today. Give Tracy a hand. She hurt her leg about 3 weeks ago, and I've been dragging her around the country. I said, I'm sorry. But my beautiful wife, Tracy, is a pharmacist, and she believes that I'm ADD and I've never been treated before. So there's no way I can stand at the podium and do it the way people expect me to do it. I got to move around, because when my ADD kick, and I'll just toss the podium off the stage. The county exec will charge me $5,000 for a $2 podium. So we're not going to have that issue, county exec. Caveat number 2, don't confuse my passion with anger. Every time I stand up and I travel this world and I stand before an audience, a lot of times when I'm finished, people say, that's an angry black man right there. And I tell people, no, I'm not angry, I'm just passionate. And I remember I was at General Electric. I was speaking for General Electric, and it was Jeff Immelt, one of the most powerful CEOs in the world, Al Sharpton and me. Now, that's gangster. Can I say gangster? Oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes I forget who I'm talking to. So that's gangster. And Jeff Immelt was sitting there, and I said, Mr. Immelt, he said, yes, Dr. Mackie. I said, pinch me. He said, what? I said, tickle me. He said, what are you talking about? I said, man, dreams do come true. Who ever thought a little black boy from Backertown, Gerttown, Zion City of New Orleans would be sitting next to one of the most powerful CEOs in the world, was about to speak to 1,500 of his executives? Now, I don't care what anybody say. America is still the greatest country in the world. This is the only place in the world where you can get up every day and make your dreams come true. And for some reason, many of our children get up every day and don't believe that. And that's what we have to bring back to every community in this country. Matter of fact, Martin Luther King said, at the end of the day, it's not the words of my enemies I shall remember, but the silence of my friends. And I tell people if I am angry, the real question is, why are you not? When you look at the state of education in many places, when you look at the state of children, look at the state of youth, you look at the state of families, look like somebody should be mad, look like somebody should be angry, look like somebody should be protesting, look like somebody should be taken to the street. But I'm not angry, I'm just passionate. And I'm just happy to be here with other passionate people, because only passionate people will come together like this with a community-centered solution. Only passionate people like this will understand that you got to do the work. I'm tired of going to places and everybody talking about the work. People want to talk about the work. Courtney, they want to write about the work. Lindsay, they want to meet about the work. Then they want to put the plan together about the work. Then they want to make a deck about the work. Then they want to have a committee about the work. And then they want to upload the work to the cloud. Then they want to tweet about the work. Then they want to post about the work. Then they're going to they want to have a strategic consultant come in and discuss the work. Then they want to write the work up. Then they want to get the work examined. But nobody want to do the work. And that's what it's going to take. The work. The world ain't changed by your opinions. The world is changed by your actions. The work. So everywhere I go, James Baldwin said, a passion is unfriendly. He said a passion is angry. James Baldwin said a passion is encompassment of everything that's not itself. He said a passion contains a challenge. More important, he said a passion contains an unspeakable hope. And everywhere I go around this country, and when I'm talking to people about children, when I'm talking to people about education, when I'm talking to people about community, I challenge them to do more. I challenge them to be better. I challenge them to commit to everybody. But I also refuse to leave them with an unspeakable hope. And this thing called hope is real. Matter of fact, America is built on one thing and one thing only, and that is hope. Hope is the only thing that took us from where we were. Hope is the only thing that got us to where we are today. And guess what? Hope is the only thing that's going to take us to where we need to go. This thing called hope is real. And I know a man ran for president and used the word hope, and everybody act like hope a four-letter word. Hope ain't no four-letter word. I got a friend named Dr. True. And Dr. True said, Brother Mackie, when you lose money, you've lost a little. He said, when you lose a friend, you've lost a lot. He said, when you lose hope, you've lost it. And as I go around this country and look in the eyes of many of our children, look like they've lost it. And Green Trade is your responsibility in this community to bring back hope to all of our children. Our legacy, the best legacy we can leave to our children is hope for a better tomorrow. That's our responsibility. I was on Ricky Smiley recently, and they said, what you think is the problem in many communities? I said, we playing hide and seek. He said, what you mean? I said, the kids seeking and the adults hiding. Our children ain't lost. They've been left. If you take my kid to the mall and then you come back to my house and talk about, Dr. Mackie, I lost your kid. What you mean you lost my kid? No, Elvin, you ain't lose my kid. You left my kid, and you better go back and get him. Many communities have left their children. And now it's time for us to go back and get them. And that's why your solution got to be child and youth-centered. It got to be community-centered. Because you have to meet them where they are. See, this thing called hope is real. Hope is the thing that caused the old lady to sit down and caused the nation to stand up. Hope is the thing that made Tuskegee Airmen believe that they could fly airplanes when their own government told them they couldn't. Hope is the thing that made George Washington Carver do with a peanut 100 years ago that Harvard PhDs still cannot do today. Hope is the thing that turned crackheads into teachers and pimps into preachers. Hope is the thing that made our founding fathers right. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that some people, white men, no, all people are created equal. Hope is the thing that made my friend George W. Bush, when he ran for president the second time, entitled his stump speech, The Duty of Hope. Hope is the thing that made John F. Kennedy say, don't ask what your nation can do for you, but ask what you can do for your nation. Hope is the thing that made Patrick Henry write, give me liberty or give me debt. Hope is the thing that made even Ronald Reagan, when he talked about the shining city on the hill, he said, America's the last best hope for man on earth. Now that's some hope for your behind. Hope is the thing that took a black preacher in Alabama and made him believe that he can have a dream and transform the entire country. Hope is the thing that took Cesar Chavez and have him organize migrant farm workers so they can have a better life. Hope's the thing that took Jay-Z from big pimping to a billionaire, took Mae Jemison to the moon. Hope's the thing that took a man in South Africa at the age of 47 and sent him to jail for 27 years, and he came out a world leader. Hope's the thing that took a black boy with a white mom and a goat-herding daddy and made him believe that he can be president in a place called America. And many people said no, but America stood up and said, yes, you can. You see, hope is that little voice in your head that whispers maybe when the whole world is screaming no. And Lindsay, I don't know where you're from. Bruce, I don't know where you're from. Elvin, I don't know where you're from, but where I'm from. I grew up thinking my name was no. Can I go to the store? No. Can I go across the street? No. Can I go to the mall? No. You think I can work over there? No. You think I could be an engineer? No. You think I can be a doctor? Oh, hell no. And to the beautiful women in the room, I remember growing up, I used to ask you all the time, may I have your phone number? You know what they used to tell me? No. Back in the day, they didn't want me, but now since I'm out, so young men, keep hope alive. And I'm here today to let you know. I don't know who's telling the children in Pierce County no. It may be in their house. It may be their parents. It may be their relatives. It may be their friends. It may be the schools. It may be the people they're dealing with. But when the children come to you, Pierce County, you have to tell them yes. That's what we got to be about. We've got to be about the business of making children believe that they can achieve greatness right in their community. When people got to leave their community to get something of value, that's a value statement on them that they're not worth investing in. So in New Orleans, we're building a 30,000 square feet, $15 million STEM center on the side of town with the least investment, underinvestment, Chantel in New Orleans East. And people say, well, why are you putting a STEM center over there? I said, well, that's where the people are. They said, well, if you put it over here, it'll be closer where people can get to it. I said, well, if those people over there don't have transportation, and the distance from that to there is the same distance from there to that, look like the people would be better served if the building was, maybe I ain't making sense. Maybe this engineering is too deep of engineering. They don't have cars, you got cars. Well, you get in your car and drive over here. So, because we're going to lower the barrier to entry to the people who don't have access. We meet in the community where they are. And sometimes it's our arrogance to believe that we got something that they need. So if they want it, you need to come to me. And if you don't come, you're just going to have to suffer. That's the mindset of a lot of people. And that's what gotten us in this situation as we are now. And maybe that's not happening in Pierce County. It's just happening in every other county I go into in a place called America. And that's why we are trying to change this. Because as I said in a video, in the 21st century, our children are going to only have three options. The 21st century, our children only have three options. Either they're going to take something, break something, and or make something. If we don't give them the education and inspiration to make something, like make a living, make a difference, make a life, that's only going to leave them with the two options that we see on the news every night, because I want you all to know something. See, while our children worrying about Beyonce and Jay-Z and a baby named Blue, I got 99 problems, and a baby named Blue ain't one of them. See why they're worrying about North, South, East, and West, and Kanye and Dante and Ye. See why they worrying about Taylor Swift and 21 Savage. See where they worrying about whether Meek got mailed by Diddy. See where they worrying about all that different foolishness. I want to let you know something, Pierce County. There's a little kid in India and a little kid in China studying under the cloak of darkness, preparing for the day to kick out children behinds, and it's not even personal. They don't care if they're black or white, Asian, Hispanic. They don't care if their mom strung out on fentanyl or the daddy locked up. They don't care if they're a trust fund baby. The only thing they want to do is take advantage of the opportunities that our children are not taking advantage of in a place called America. I was at the White House last 2 Fridays ago, and people think this is like a low-income, low-resource problem. This is an American problem. Middle-class kids ain't doing what they're supposed to be doing in America for us to deal with the workforce issues and challenges, especially in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics for the 21st century. We always want to point the finger. I point the finger at my middle-class friends. See, why are your kids not achieving better? They got all of that. They got you. They got the nice car. They got the suburban school. Why your kid ain't achieving? It's an American issue. And I remember when I used to be a professor, and I was telling Tanya about the fact that when Hurricane Katrina hit, I used to be a professor at Tulane University, the first and only African-American ever tenured in the history of the College of Engineering. In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, Tulane made an unbelievable decision. Tulane decided to keep the football team and eliminate the engineering program. And I lost a six-figure guaranteed job overnight. My buddy, who was the football coach, called. He said, Doc, you ever thought that I'll be here coaching football and you'll be gone as a tenured faculty member? I said, brother, don't get it wrong. He said, what? I said, maybe the young men in the hood got it right. He said, what you mean? I said, when I was studying calculus, maybe I should have been doing wind sprints, because the message that the president of Tulane University sent to the children of New Orleans is the message that many big universities are sending to communities. And the message is you could come to this university and run that rock, dunk that ball, hit that pill, stop, drop it like it's hot, and entertain us. Don't you think about coming here and getting a science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, a medical degree to save yourself and your community from the next natural disaster. And one of my buddies called. He was the dean at Ohio State at the time. He said, Mackie, how you lose a tenured position? He said, the only way you lose a tenured position is by an act of God. I said, well, God decided to act. And I left the university to create a communiversity. My God told me, your work is not in that building. Your work is in this community. I said, I'm going to write a book called Kicked Out by Fate, because I was too scared to leave, so God just kicked me out. Bam! That's how it happened. And I'll never forget, my son came home, and when he said he didn't like science anymore, I looked at him and said, boy, you got to be crazy. It's in your DNA, because when your mama was playing that crazy classical music to her stomach, I was whispering Newton's 4 laws to her belly. And we went in the garage, we started doing all these hands-on experiments. And before you know it, our other son came out in the garage. Before you know it, the neighbor's son came out in the garage. Before you know it, I had 20 kids in my garage. Now, that was problematic to me, because when I grew up in New Orleans, I grew up in a house with no books. My father dropped out of school in 8th grade to pick cotton. My mother went to a state-approved Negro high school. And when my mom used to go shopping, she would buy cheese, but the cheese was only for my daddy ham and cheese sandwich for breakfast, or it's for the macaroni and cheese on Sunday. She would buy orange juice, but the orange juice was only for my daddy breakfast, for his libations after work, gin and juice. And we had to drink Kool-Aid. And I often said to myself, county exec, if I ever get me some money, I'm going to get me a big house, and I'm going to have 2 refrigerators. One inside and one outside in the garage. And my refrigerator in the garage had all the juices in the world in it. And plus some stuff to mix with it. So I had all these kids coming in my garage, and I couldn't have my libation. So I said, I got to get these kids out my garage. But we saw what working in that garage and these hands-on activities did to the confidence of these kids. We saw how it changed their language. We saw how it changed their stature even when they walked up. When they rode their bike up the driveway and dropped it to run into the garage to figure out what we was going to be building on that Saturday, I saw something different in them. I'll never forget, my son came home from school, and he said, I said, what's your grades? He said, Daddy, I got all A's. That's my dog. That's my boy. He said, but Daddy, my friends want to know how I know all this. I said, did you tell them you do this in the garage with your daddy? He said, yeah, Daddy, but my friends need this. And right then and there, with the empathy he must have got from his mom, he realized that he had been exposed to people and things that his friends had not. And he believed in his heart of hearts that if they were exposed to the same people and the same things, they'll know just as much as him. In Pierce County, I realized right then and there, I had become like a bunch of other people, keeping my time and my talent and my treasure in my house to my 2, when I had something greater to offer my entire community. And that's when my wife and I said, other kids deserve this. We took $100,000 of our own dollars and began this organization called STEM NOLA. And STEM NOLA is based on a couple of principles that I want to share with you. But I wrote an article for Forbes. I'll make sure you all get it, and it's called Creating a High-Functioning STEM Community. And when I walked in and I saw the CYC, when I saw the slogan, I knew then why Tanya wanted me to have me here. Because we've been operating STEM NOLA for 10 years. We've engaged over 150,000 young people. And we say this high-functioning STEM community is child-centered, adult-governed, elder-ruled. If you go to any high-functioning community, it has a structure. And the structure in any high-functioning community is that when they do something, they do it through the lens of what's in the best interest of our children. Any high-functioning community. And you can see how they build camps for the kids, how they build recreation centers, how the kids got activities. And it's so funny, like I say all the time, we live in a country that makes sure we put a football or basketball in the hand of every boy before the age of 4. But when I talk about putting the STEM in the hands of every kid before the age of 4, people talk about, well, have you piloted? How you know they want it? How you going to do that? What's your evaluation plan? And then we watch the draft, and we say dreams do come true. And then we have 250 guys sitting there waiting to get drafted, hoping and believing that one day they're going to be one of 3,000 millionaires in the NFL or one of 250 millionaires in the NBA, when I know that there's 14 million millionaires and 2,750 billionaires. I know that when Bill Gates took Microsoft public, on that day, he created 12 billionaires and 3,000 millionaires just within the company. So why put a football or a basketball in my kid's hand when I can put STEM in his hand, or STEM in her hand, and they can have a drink? That one day, they can have a dream that one day they can own the team like the Microsoft founder. That's the hope that we got to bring back to our communities. So you got to have the right structure. Child-centered, adult-governed, elder rule. So at STEM NOLA, we focus on youth, children, and family at the center. And I get in a lot of fights because people want to do things, and I'm like, but you're creating barriers for the families. Well, it'd be easier on us. Guess what? It ain't about you. The adults in our community are college kids. So we train up college kids. In the last 10 years, we put over $4 million in college kids because we deployed college kids back into the community so they can engage the young people with science, technology, engineering, and math. Many of the college kids say, I wish I had this in my community when I was like these kids. So they show up. And the elder in our community are the professionals. They volunteer. That's the STEM professionals, the teachers, the skilled trade women and men, and anybody else who want to volunteer. And we call that vertical mentoring. Because my kids grew up privileged in a house with a mother who's a pharmacist and a daddy who's a PhD in engineering. So they got to have that conversation every day. So the real question is, how do we marshal the human capital and the technical capital back into these communities so kids can see, touch, and feel real people and know that these people ain't pop up out no toaster. They ain't a whatchamacallit. They ain't a this or that. They're real people just like them. And if I do the things that they did and I study hard in a place called America, I can have what they have. We've heard that story over and over again. So you got to have structure. After structure, you got to have some standards. When different organizations come together, STEM NOLA, we do cross-sectional, intergenerational engagement. That's vertical mentoring. It's cross-sectional, but it's intergenerational, and we bring the companies together. Then I challenge the companies to do right by the community. Never forget, there's a company here, kind of named Boeing. It's a big supporter of us. And I want to have a big rocket day. And we have one of the largest urban rocket days in New Orleans. 100 Boeing employees come out, 700-800 families and kids come out. And there's a young man now that's working for Lockheed Martin, and he said, I wasn't a bad kid, I just didn't have any direction. But that day when I built those rockets, I knew then I could do this. And now he's building an F-35 fighter jet for Lockheed Martin. We see tangible results from the structure and bringing these people into the community and let kids see them and touch them. But then we have standards. And the people who come to our STEM thing and do the work with us, they got to meet that standard. We do it like this. We don't do it like that. As a matter of fact, when the volunteers sit down, I say, Courtney, I tell them all the time, it's 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. And if some of y'all don't even know the commercial. Man, I'm old. But if we do it like that, we're going to get this outcome. So all the people who volunteer with us, all the people who interact with us, we got to have these standards. And I'm an engineer, so the work that we give the kids got to have the right fidelity and integrity. Some people say they're doing STEM, and I'm like, not those kids, because Tracy and I promised that we would not give any kid that which we would not give our own. So I got to have the same standards for everybody else's children that we have. And that's why I challenge the organizations and the corporations to do what's right, because if they got a computer camp on that side of town and it's $500 per kid, what make you think I can do it for $250 a kid on this side of town? The technology didn't change, the computer didn't change. The children changed, so the value proposition in your mind should change. So when we work with corporations, we go in there and we give them their value proposition. We tell them, if you do this, it check your corporate social responsibility box, it check your community engagement box, it check your employment engagement box, it check your employee satisfaction box, it check your public affairs box, it check your government affairs box, it checks your long-term workforce development box. As a matter of fact, it checked the right damn thing to do box. And you realize I put that last because I'm not convinced everybody interested in that. So when we're dealing with people, we got to understand their value proposition. So I understand that they want to get close to the politicians. They want to make sure their brand is leveraged in the community. So we give them that opportunity. Those are the standards that we work on, and we teach everybody like that because we want everybody to have capacity. Structure, standards, and then strategy. We got to have the right strategy. And you're all in the right place when you say child and youth-centered, because that's where the strategy must start. Because if we can take a kid and change his or her mind, or give them an inkling of hope as a little kid, you know how that'll bloom. That's called America. And the proof is in the pudding. When I was 9 years old, my uncle came to visit New Orleans, and he brought me an erector set. He and my dad was in the corner, and he gave me that erector set, and I sat there, and I started fidgeting around, and I built a little car. And when I pressed that button, the car rolled across the floor. And my uncle got up and said, that boy's going to be an engineer. I had never met one, couldn't spell it, didn't know what it was. But he spoke that hope into me. And from that point on, everywhere I went, brother, when somebody asked me what I was going to be, I said, my uncle said, I'm going to be an engineer. When I got to high school, I had an 840 on the SAT. I started college in remedial reading and developmental mathematics. They said I wasn't even college material. And when I got to college, they said, Kelvin, what you going to be? I said, an engineer. They said, your test scores say you can't be. I said, my uncle said, I'm going to be an engineer. And when I finished Morehouse in mathematics, after starting Morehouse in remedial reading, developmental math, and 0.0 credit, after being told that I wasn't college material, I finished Morehouse #1 in mathematics, #5 in the largest class Morehouse ever graduated, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. And I walked across the street to a little school called Georgia Tech. And I said, I want to come to your school. They said, well, based on your test scores, we don't think you can be an engineer. I said, my uncle said. And I stand before you today with a BS, MS, and PhD in mechanical engineering from Georgia Tech, a school that said I wasn't qualified. But from people at that school who did not understand the power of hope, who did not understand community-centered engagement, who did not understand that if we take human capital and technical capital and put it in the communities, there's no power that can stop a man or a woman empowered to achieve with the willpower in a place called America. And there's greatness in our communities, but we got to go curate it. The NFL draft was last night, and I often talk about this. I was at Clemson University last week. I used to come up here and work with UW a lot with their Mesa program. when they used to bring me to UW and make me go to Rainier High and talk over there. And it's funny, I meet kids to this day, say, remember you came up here? You know, if a kid somehow, if a young man is strong as a bull and fast as a rabbit in a cave in West Virginia, somehow these colleges can find them. And then when they bring them to the campus, even if they can't read, they put them in a learning community and give them wraparound services such that they can stay eligible. And they do that because they understand the value proposition of that young man. We have a son at Howard University, third-year engineering student. Our other son is at Yale, majoring in economics and data science. But when he graduated from his high school, the number one high school in the state of Louisiana, he had a 4.0, 4.9, however they added up these days. He was number one student. He was SGA praised. He was captain of the basketball team. Had done 3 movies and 6 commercials. And somehow our state college never found him. But his friends who's better in sports, somehow the college found them. And I am convinced that UW or higher ed can't solve this problem. This problem only going to be solved by committed people like you going into the community doing the work. And when we do that, there'll be a kid one day that'll realize she's going to say, I am because you were. One thing we know about our program, they had me on the news and they said, well, what are you trying to do? I said, I'll tell you what I'm trying to do. I said, one day they're going to be a young lady and maybe she's going to win a Nobel Prize. And they're going to say, where you from? You know, where you grew up, the community you came from. When did you know you can do this? And I want that young lady to look in the camera. I want her to say, one Saturday, I got up and my mom or my dad took me to some gym. And she may not remember the program's name. And she may not remember my name. But she's going to remember she went to a gym. And she said in that gym they had all these people, and in this gym they facilitated all this stuff. And when I did that, I knew then that I can do this. See, there's 2 types of wealth in this world. There's making money, which is the lowest form of wealth. And that's why most wealthy people, when you meet them, before their eyes close, what they try to do is give away their money, so hopefully somebody will remember them. Literally, there's wealthy people in graves right now that nobody know their name, that nobody will ever remember. So for me, making money is the lowest form of wealth. But the highest form of wealth is making a difference. In Green Trike, you all are committed to making a difference. You all are making a difference. And I am convinced if you all keep doing what you're doing, when your eyes close, there'll be a kid one day screaming your name. Now, I got to get out of here. We got to fly back in the morning. And I do a lot of flying. Delta used to take care of me, but now I got to write letters like, y'all don't treat me like you used to treat me. They wrote back, said, you ain't flying like you used to fly. But I remember when our sons was born, and my wife Tracy was like, look, you know, they're getting of age. Alvin, you're going to get to this point. They're getting of age. I need you here. You know, I said, I understand that. You know, and she said, yeah, but, you know, like 0 to 8, that's when mama really doing their thing. But like 9 years old, that's when the boys really need their daddy. I said, we read the same book. I know that. She said, yeah, so I need you here with me raising these boys. They need their daddy, and I believe that. I said, look, I got you. She said, look, I need you here with me. I said, look at you all in love. She said, no, fool, I need you here with these boys. I said, I got it. I said, look, if I got to go get on this plane. She said, look, you got to stop flying so much. I said, look, do you like to eat? She said, yeah, I like to eat. I said, well, look, if my mouth ain't moving, you ain't eating. So I got to go get on this plane. She's like, no. She said, I need you. And I said, look, if the plane go down, because at the time a lot of planes was being hijacked. Remember they ran the plane into the mountain? They still ain't flying the plane in Indonesia yet. And I told her, look, if the plane go down and I'm on it, and CNN come to interview you, I don't want you to give that, oh, I know he was, no, you let CNN know, I know my husband, he was in there, boom, boom, boom. No, you let him know. She said, no, fool. I said, look, if the plane go down, there's only two things I want you to tell my sons. She said, what? I said, one, tell them I was a man, and two, I got up every day and tried to answer those two existential questions of who am I and why am I here? And that's what I expect of them. She said, all right, so now look. If the plane go down, she said, stop talking like that. I said, look, if the plane go down, you're going to be all right. She said, stop talking like that, Calvin. I said, if the plane go down, you're going to be all right. She said, well, how all right am I going to be? I said, double indemnity, all right, woman. I said, look, if the plane go down, there's only one word I want on my tombstone. She said, Calvin, stop talking like that. Stop talking like that. I said, look, woman, listen to me one time. Now, for the married men, you get that. Listen to me one time. She said, what, fool? I said, if the plane go down, there's only one word I want on my tombstone. And she said, fool, what is that? And I said, empty, because I want the world to know I gave it my green stripe. That's the only thing we're asking you today. Give it your all for our children. Thank you all. Have a great conference. And thank you for having me. Thank you. 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 Thank you.